Hello to all the debt warriors listening, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'm your host, Katie Fata. Summer is wrapping up, and it's common for people to spend more money during the summer season. Did you spend a little more than you wanted to during the summer? If so, don't worry, because today's episode is here to help. I'll be talking about how you can kickstart your debt payoff. You want to make sure you're tackling your debt before it gets out of hand. I'll be joined by reoccurring guest Kim Cole, who is Navicore Solutions Community Engagement Manager. Kim is experienced with financial education and debt payoff. Kim and I will be discussing different payoff methods, automatic payments, debt management plans, and much more. Now, let's get to my interview with Kim. Hi, Kim. Thanks for coming back on the podcast today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since you've been on, so I thought that would be a great time to bring you back on to talk about kickstarting your debt payoff. So what should the first step be when someone is evaluating their debt?
So when it comes to evaluating your debt, really what you need to do first and foremost is know exactly what you're dealing with. So I always suggest pulling your credit reports. Right in the beginning, annualcreditreport.com, wonderful site. You're able to pull those reports once a year for free from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. I'm sure that listeners of your podcast are well aware of those three bureaus. They've heard about them before.
Right.
And then what you want to do is you want to make a list of each debt with the balance and the interest rates and the monthly payments on those. And, basically you just want to kind of make a stack and list them all. And that'll give you a general idea of how much you owe and begin the first step into paying off debt.
Mm-hmm. So when someone's listing their debt, should they list all debt, including like their mortgage and their student loans, or just like credit cards?
Well, one of the things that I suggest doing, it depends on what you're looking to achieve. Mm-hmm. There are absolutely professionals that would suggest figuring out your net worth and, kind of going in that direction where you are really looking at your assets versus your debts and kind of tackling that way. The only suggestion that I have when it comes to that is that if it's too difficult or if it's a little bit monotonous, walk away from that. Mm-hmm. Because right now, really what you want to focus on first and foremost is just like this unsecured debt, because you're looking to save as much money. Now, if you're experiencing financial difficulties where you are having a hard time making payments on certain things, that's a different story. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on.
Okay. So after we've listed all of our debts and stuff, what we could get into kind of paying off our debt. So what is the debt snowball payoff method?
So the debt snowball is basically a payoff strategy in which you start to pay. Well, you're going to make your minimum payments on all of your credit cards. Mm-hmm. Let's start right there on all of your unsecured debt, minimum payments. And then with the little extra money that you have from your monthly budgeting, what I would suggest doing in the snowball would be to add that money to the smallest balance that you have. So basically, if you have a card with $1,000 balance, $800 balance, and one with a $200 balance, you would add that extra money to the one card that has the $200 balance. Okay. The benefit of tackling debt in this manner is once you pay off one debt, you take the minimum payment you were paying on that first debt along with the extra, and you now apply it to the second smallest debt. What this does is it gives you a sense that you are achieving something. You're moving through it. It's psychological that, okay, one debt's gone. I can keep on moving here. And as a result, it works very well for a lot of people because of the kind of instant gratification that it does provide and the motivation to continue to move forward.
So I guess on the opposite end, what is the debt avalanche payoff method?
Sure. The debt avalanche payoff method is my personal favorite. And the reason for that is that you start attacking the card with the highest interest rate as opposed to the highest balance. The benefit in this is that you are going to save money by paying off the cards with the highest balances first. The problem with this method is that it may take a lot longer for you to get that first debt paid off. The flip side is on the back end, you'll fly through paying off the debt, but it can become a little frustrating for those that are looking for that gratification of paying off a debt right away. But if you can hang in there, it is well worth the time.
So is there a different scenario where you would suggest each payoff method, like as like different kind of debts a person might have where you think one might be better than the other?
I think that, money is very psychological. And, we have to be realistic in who we are and what is going to get us from point A to point B in the most comfortable fashion. And so I don't know necessarily if the type of debt, when we're talking about unsecured debt, is necessarily important. For most people, that falls into the category of unsecured loans and credit cards. Now, I'm not talking about student loans. That's a whole different ballgame. But it really does give you the opportunity to use a method that works best for you. And yes, I think one in the avalanche method I like better only because of the fact that I'm a financial educator. So for me, it's always about how can we save money. But mentally, if I bail out on that one card in because I'm not feeling that I'm getting anything out of it, then it really didn't help me all that much. So, really it's about your personal needs when it comes to the payoff.
Right. You kind of have to look into the two different types and then yourself best. So you have to go that route when you're deciding.
Without question.
Yeah. So another form of debt payoff is debt consolidation. So can you just give like an overview about what is debt consolidation? We also have a full podcast about debt consolidation that I'll put a link to that in the description of this podcast as well. But if you kind of just want to give a summary about it.
Sure. So debt consolidation, when we're talking about kind of this debt payoff idea, is that you basically would take out a loan or another credit card and pay off everything, all of your other credit cards, and just have that one individual loan, which can be good if you end up with a much lower interest rate, but can be bad if you are tempted to use your cards again. And what we have seen time and time again as credit counselors, when utilizing this method, is that now there is a loan payment and the credit cards are charged up again. So you really have to have some incredible self-control. And I personally never recommend anyone using equity from their home to consolidate. You're essentially turning unsecured debt into secured debt. You're betting your house on it, and there's not much I'm willing to bet my house on. So that's consolidation.
Right. So we kind of touched on Snowball versus Avalanche when you determine which debt payoff strategy is right for you. But if you want to throw in debt consolidation, what are some other tips to determine which debt payoff strategy is right for you?
I really do think that, besides knowing yourself well and how you tend to spend and how rewarding you need the payoff to be, how quickly and such, but also your lifestyle.
Okay.
I think that's very important to look at. If you are the type that is going to a bar every weekend and you're throwing your credit card over for the tab, and it's easy to spend $100 on on a tab when a few friends go out.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly. And, that is something that could really, if you look at something like the consolidation, that could be very dangerous because, the idea is with the debt consolidation, you're not going to use those cards again.
Right.
So that could run you into trouble. I think so not only knowing your lifestyle, but it also can depend on your family circumstances.
Right.
For instance, my husband and I have joint credit cards. And one of them is a rewards card that I really do like the rewards from. And so that may be a card that we keep using, or it's a card that we don't include in the payoffs. There's so many factors when you have two adults working on the same family budget. I think it's important that there's communication and that you both come together and decide exactly what you're going to do, because my husband could care less about the benefits that we're receiving on that particular card. They have nothing to do with him. So he would throw that in to a Snowball or an Avalanche in a second and not think twice. So, just know your family too.
Right. So maybe for millennials, a consolidation situation might not be the best option.
Consolidation, I mean, it can work, but it does work. But it just requires a level of discipline that so many people need to have. And in this day and age, with the costs of things, it's very easy to whip out a credit card and pay for something. And, the likelihood of the debt returning, it really can be pretty high. And so I know personally I couldn't do it. And I've been doing this for 20 years.
Right.
So, that's why I tend to, if I know I can't do it, tend to shy away from recommending it if there isn't a real true benefit.
Right. And if anyone is listening and they're interested in debt consolidation I will link the podcast I did about it, and then we also have a blog about it. I will link that in the description of this podcast. So I know automatic payments are great when it comes to bill paying and stuff. Do you maybe want to explain how they work if some people don't know? And do you think someone should use them when they're paying off their debt?
That's a really, really good question. I love the kind of automatic payments. So what I can tell you, what we personally have is our credit cards, our car payments, basically everything that we pay a monthly bill is linked to our bank account. And every month you can set it up so that there's an amount that's automatically paid, such as your car payment, where it's not going to change, or you can go in once a month and adjust the payments and it's taken care of. You don't need to write a check. You don't need to put a stamp on anything. I really do like using the automatic payments. I really do feel that they help kind of, for us, keep us on track. The downside is that it is connected to your bank account. And while being connected to your bank account may, in theory, sound great, you really need to watch the balance in your bank account.
Right.
Because if something is set up to be an automatic payment and you don't have the money in the account and you don't stop the automatic payment, it will cause what is essentially almost like a bounce check. They will make an attempt to make that payment. So I like it for debt repayment if you're the type of person that will sit down once a month and make sure that the account is balanced and that you know all the fees that you have from different ATM machines, from using your debit card and things like that. Once, if you have that kind of self-control, definitely, I think it's a great idea. If not, then maybe writing checks out is a better option. But I have to be honest with you, both scenarios require you to know what's going on with your bank account.
Right.
Whether you write a check or whether it's a direct debit, it does not matter. Right. So I strongly recommend that getting used to balancing your bank account should really be right in that beginning of first steps when paying off debt, because one way or another, they're going to get their money and it's going to be from your bank account, whether it be a written check or a direct debit.
Right. I definitely think it's a good thing. I mean, I use it for my student loans, especially. So I think it keeps in you have to pay that every month. So I think it does help keep me that payment going, because I probably would forget. And especially I feel like with a lot of millennials, they'll probably forget with my cable and everything that's automatic. So I think it definitely works. It's great for the younger generation.
I think so too. And particularly the fact that employers, I can't think of one off the top of my head that doesn't offer a direct deposit option for your paycheck. And I know I use it. I know my husband uses it. So for our personal situation, it's wonderful because we always know how much money is in there, and that we don't run the risk of our electric bill not getting paid because there's not enough money in there. I really do like the idea of a more simplified, computerized kind of system.
Right. Yeah. So automatic payments, they work great to help you, pay off debt and stay out of debt. So what if somebody wants to start paying off their credit card debt on their own? How can somebody go about doing that?
Well, realistically, again, what they need to do is know how much they owe. So that can be done with a combination of a credit report, of the 3 credit reports, as well as the bills that you're either receiving via email or paper bills. The other thing that is so important is a budget, because you have to be able to determine how much extra money that you have that you can apply to the debt. Paying on minimum payments is not going to get you out of debt in the next 20 years. So what you really do need to do is pay above the minimum. I would recommend maybe budgeting for a month or two, tracking your expenses, and really sticking to setting aside X amount of dollars each month to apply to the debt payoff. And then again, I would look at the Avalanche or the Snowball method, whichever one works best for you, or even the debt consolidation, and begin slow. And you don't need to put $1,000 a month extra on one credit card. You can always add. So if you start off with an extra $20 over the minimum payment, that's fine. And then as you get more comfortable with the system you've chosen, you can add more. So that's really what I would recommend. I also am a very, very strong advocate for budget counseling and, having a third party to help you take a look at the numbers and see exactly what's going on with your budget and helping determine what the right moves may be for you.
Yeah, I definitely think if you're going to tackle your debt on your own too, you have to be you guys stick with your plan. If you, especially the budget, always stick to it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and be patient too. It's not going to happen overnight.
No, nothing good happens quickly. We know that.
Yeah.
So, you're in it for the long haul, but the beauty of being in it for the long haul is that it's an opportunity for you also to learn some financial literacy along the way and understand how personal finance works. And therefore, by the time you're done, you will be a financial guru out of debt.
Right. So, if you don't want to tackle your debt on your own, if you want to seek help with it, you can go through a debt management plan, which is one of our specialties here at Navicore.
Absolutely.
So do you want to maybe just talk about what a debt management plan is?
Sure. I don't only work for the company. I definitely, in my early 20s, Navicore Solutions helped me with my own personal debt before I was employed by Navicore Solutions. And so I'm a strong advocate for it, especially when you don't know where to turn. When you get to the point where your debt is concerning you, I recommend wholeheartedly that you speak to a credit counselor. This should be somebody that is certified through one of the professional organizations. I personally recommend the NFCC, National Foundation for Credit Counseling. They do an excellent job certifying counselors, and always a nonprofit. And talking to somebody about the debt and talking about what your debt looks like and what your expenses look like and what your lifestyle is. This person, this counselor, is going to take a non-judgmental look at everything and give you guidance. One of what I think is one of the best solutions available is a debt management plan. Agencies such as Navicore Solutions have relationships with a number of creditors. I can't even fathom at this point. I've been with the company 20 years. I can't even fathom at this point how many creditors we have relationships with at this point. It's kind of huge. And the great thing about a debt management plan is the debt is consolidated. However, it is in the best interest of the client in most cases to close the cards. Some of the creditors will close it anyway. This is to prevent future spending on those cards. And then what they are able to do, the credit counselors will put these cards on a plan, and the creditors tend to lower the interest rates. If you are past due on a credit card, you're getting hit with a huge fee every month, usually more than your minimum payment. After 3 months, they traditionally stop with the late fees or over limit fees. And the thing that I love about this is they also will start to report the card current to the 3 bureaus. And what's amazing about that is that this is also going to help your credit.
Right.
So it usually takes about 5 years to pay off. You make one payment as the consumer to the credit counseling agency. They break it up and disperse it to all of the creditors. It is really, I mean, if you're overwhelmed, I can't think of a better option, because at this point, all you have to do is set up one payment, which I definitely recommend a direct debit in this case.
Yes.
And it's taken care of. Right. And all you have to do is look at the bills each month and let the agency know when that card is finally paid off.
Right.
I can't think of anything better.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned a little about it just a few minutes ago about you could find a certified credit counseling company through the NFCC. So I will link them in the description of this podcast as well. But like you just said, make sure they're a nonprofit.
Yes, and be careful.
Right.
They're offering you a too good to be true scenario. It probably is.
Yeah.
I laugh. I got a phone call the other night from an agency who told me that my debt, which is my house and my car, right, we pay off the credit card debt every month, is now in a position where I don't have to pay it back. Yep. And I said, that's amazing. How does this happen? And evidently, I didn't realize this. Maybe some of our podcast listeners could enlighten me on this. But evidently, if you have over $10,000 worth of debt, you don't need to pay it back. That this agency, for X amount of dollars, and I will tell you, it was fairly high. I think it was $2,000 or $3,000. They will make the debt go away. And here I am, involved in every aspect of personal finance that you can pretty much imagine. I'm going, I haven't heard that one. And of course, I let her talk for a while because I was intrigued by whatever this was going to be. And when I mentioned the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, she hung up on me rather quickly.
Oh, wow.
But yes, agencies promising that the debt is just going to go away. That's not real.
Yeah.
That's not real. I mean, there are options where debt reduction in a controlled setting can be a good idea, but that's a case-by-case basis.
Right.
But like I said, if they're promising that they're going to dispute all your debt and it's going to go away, no.
Yeah, like we said, nothing good happens overnight, so you got to be patient.
No.
Definitely. So what advice would you have for someone who feels overwhelmed by their debt and they might not even see an end in sight?
Unfortunately, we hear that story a lot. And I recommend, honestly, finish listening to this podcast and then give us a call. Oftentimes, what we find with our clients in the letters we receive, in the emails and all of that, is often, I felt hopeless before I spoke with you. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to pick up the phone, but it saved my life that I did. A lot of people don't realize that the psychological and emotional toll that debt can be on someone. I actually teach a class about the psychology of debt and just how to handle it when it's all way too overwhelming. We know it's the number one cause of divorce. We know it leads to depression. And unfortunately, in some cases, it does indeed lead to suicide. So know that there is no amount of debt that you could call us with that would make us go, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I can assure you, someone else had more.
Right. Yeah, we also, We have a lot more resources too about managing financial anxiety. We actually did a podcast about it last year, me and you. So I'll make sure to link that in the description of this episode. But yeah, I feel like if you feel like you want to reach out to us, reach out to us. Don't feel ashamed or anything. Trust me. You're probably not the worst that we've ever seen. So
not by far. And the same goes with student loan debt.
Right.
People are graduating college with huge amounts of debt. And during the pandemic, we've seen people who had a hard time being successful in college and therefore leaving. And now they're responsible for debt and they unfortunately don't have the income to support it. Contact us. We will do everything we can. We are an endless supply of resources.
Right. I'm definitely glad you brought up the student loan debt because that would be great for our listeners who do have student loans and are struggling to pay them off and such.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think you answered all my questions today, Kim, about kickstarting our debt payoff. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you. We'll obviously have to have you back on in the future. We'll get a different topic going and we'll have you back on.
Oh, I absolutely love being on the podcast. So I look forward to being on again.
Well, thanks, Kim. If you didn't know how to tackle your debt before this episode, you sure do now. Kim and I discussed many different options for paying off your debt yourself or getting professional help. If you want to pay off your debt on your own, look into the debt snowball or avalanche methods. Debt consolidation is another way you can pay off your debt. If you're going to use debt consolidation, you have to be committed to not using your credit cards at all. Finally, a debt management plan is an option for those who are seeking professional help with their debt payoff. Make sure to use a certified nonprofit when looking for a credit counseling company. Navicore Solutions is a certified nonprofit credit counseling company, and I'll link our website in the description of this podcast. Automatic payments are a great way to keep you on the right path when paying off your debt. Automatic payments are a way to ensure your bills are being paid every month. But like Kim said, be careful because these payments are linked to your bank account. Make sure you have enough money in your account for the payments to be deducted, or it will act like a bounced check. Whether you're paying off your debt yourself or using professional help, be patient because paying off your debt takes time. Once you've committed to a plan, stick to it because you'll become debt-free. And with that being said, that wraps up another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us there. I'll talk to you next time, Millennials, Gen Zers, and everyone else listening. Bye.